Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Sens Talk, a special episode of Sens Talk. I'm joined here with Noah Luden. Unfortunately, Brandon Mackey will not be able to join us today because he has something happened, so he won't be able to join us today. However, we're joined here with Sens Stonks host Noah Luden. Noah, how are we doing today? Final game of the season.
Listen, it's been a wild season. We're just let's hope for a good finish. It's a good young team, and let's hope they can just build on the confidence that they already have.
Well, last game, hopefully we don't get a repeat of last game, because that was not exactly the most fun game if you're a Sens fan. And more importantly, we're playing Toronto tonight, and you don't want to lose against a team like Toronto. Now, before we get into today's stream, I want to say a few things. So firstly, before we get started, use the code SENSTALK to save $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek.com. Great deal. No one knows. Fantastic deal. Take advantage of that today. As well, make sure to check out the new May issue from Faces Magazine today. Magazines are offered for free in grocery stores and select locations across Ottawa. This month's issue features a cover interview with Mark Mathot. Also in this issue, Mark and Brent Wallace discuss their new hit show, The Wally Mathot Show. The May issue also has features on Gord Wilson, Megan Chayka, and Alex Medias of the Ottawa Red Blacks. Also, do not forget to follow Faces on their social channels for great content, crazy contests, and more. That's at Faces Ottawa for their Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages. Thank you to both of them for sponsoring today's stream. Now, Noah, today, Ottawa is taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we're going to discuss the game before we get into some more season recap sort of stuff. So tonight, the Leafs, Ottawa has not exactly had the best record against the Leafs this season. The season series against the Leafs has not exactly been a kind one, to say the least, for the Ottawa Senators. So for tonight's game, what does Ottawa need to do to win tonight, Noah?
Well, Ottawa has nothing to lose, right? A lot of those young players, your Pintos, your Jacob Bernard-Dockers, your young guys, it's the last game of the season. Toronto, they don't have much to play for either. They're probably resting a lot of their top guys, or they're probably not going to be playing at that full speed. So Ottawa really has a chance to finish the season on a high note, where it's been a bumpy ride the whole way. So that Ottawa, just play their game, play hard. It's your last game of the season. Then you have to wait months and months and months till you can get back on the ice again. So just play your game, play 100%. Make sure you can catch Toronto napping maybe sometimes. They're trying to save a little bit of energy for the playoffs, but just play your game, play a full 60, and they'll be okay.
Now, Toronto, before we even get into Toronto, for Ottawa, they're starting Philip Gustafson. Are you excited to see Gus get another start in Ottawa? And potentially, hey, who knows, with the expansion draft coming up, which we'll definitely touch up on later on this stream. Who knows? Is this Philip Gustafson's last start? And if it is, what are you expecting from him tonight?
I cannot see how, after his performance this season and his development has actually been successful, so far, I cannot see how Ottawa doesn't protect Philip Gustafson. And we'll talk more about the expansion draft later, but I'm very, very excited. It's a rivalry game, big rivalry, not Saturday night, but still it's a big rivalry. Gustafson has been phenomenal. 940 save percentage. Like, come on, man. Like, that's unreal for a 23-year-old goalie. Like, he's so young. He's full of potential, and he's been phenomenal this year. I'm ready to see him again.
Now, like we see on the screen here, Ottawa's record against Toronto has not exactly been fun. Toronto is 5-2-1 against Ottawa this year. Look at the special teams. Ottawa has been an incredible special team in the special team department. Ottawa has been incredible the last couple months. With Formenton and Connor Brown, these guys are killing it on there. But if you look at their stats against Toronto, 72.7%, I think it's safe to say that a team with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, plethora of other talent like John Tavares, Joe Thornton, you could go through a list of great players. It's expected that the Senators penalty kill is going to struggle against a team like Toronto. Now, I'm wondering, for a team like Toronto, Frederik Andersen starts tonight's game. So what do you expect from Freddie Andersen tonight? If you're a Leafs fan, what should you expect from him?
I would hope to see, if I'm a Leafs fan, I would hope to see Freddie Andersen at his best. We're going into the playoffs. We don't know what Toronto is going to be doing with their goalie situation. But I feel like they've been kind of saving Freddie and just making sure that he's at that 100%. It's been a couple weeks delayed, and then another couple days delayed, and now he'll play the last game only and then in the playoffs. So I think they were trying to be extremely cautious with Freddie. They were. You hope that he could be steady. I feel like it'll be like a lot of Toronto pressure, but
Yeah.
Freddie has to come up big against those, the Ottawa pressures that come up
for sure.
Usually what it is when Toronto against Ottawa, it's Toronto with the pressure. Ottawa comes down, scores 1-0 Ottawa. Confidence ruined for Toronto.
Yeah.
Freddie has to make that first save, and if he does that, he should be pretty good.
I will say this. I'm pretty sure in the early games against Toronto when Freddie Anderson was in net, Ottawa had some success, like that 6-5 comeback that was against Freddie Anderson. So, Ottawa has success against Freddie Anderson, not so much the Leafs, but most of the games Ottawa's faced against the Leafs has been Jack Campbell. So for the Toronto Maple Leafs, like you just said, you need Freddie Anderson to get that stop and make those big stops early. Because a team like Ottawa, they have nothing to lose, and you should fear nothing more than somebody that has nothing to lose, because those are the most dangerous people, teams, etc. So for Toronto, you need a big performance from Freddie Anderson, and Austin Matthews just has to do Austin Matthews things. You can see here, 16 points in 8 games. That's 2 points per game for Austin Matthews. He can really light it up against any team, especially the Ottawa Senators, as we've seen with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews. These top players in the league love to play against the Ottawa Senators. Now, speaking of the Ottawa Senators, I'm going to show you guys the lineup for tonight's game because it is interesting. We see a couple of debuts in Parker Kelly and Logan Brown for this season. This is the first time they are starting this season for the Ottawa Senators. Parker Kelly is making his National Hockey League debut. I'm going to pull it up here, but it's unfortunate to see Colin White miss tonight's game. He hasn't had a great year. So to see a guy like Colin White miss the final game, it kind of sucks. I've seen some people say they want to trade him, and I'll say this just before we get to the lineup. I would not trade Colin White. His contract's a little high, but he still has potential. He's still a young player, like I think Noah can agree. And I think next year, listen, if this continues into next season, then you could have that discussion, but I think it's a little premature, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think Colin White, he's taken a minimal step forward. Like last year, I think he had a bad year. This year, he had some moments, he was dead at the beginning for Artem Anisimov, that whole thing. I think he's had a better year. Definitely not what you want from Colin White.
Yeah.
But like on the minutes that he gets and the team that he's playing on, I'm not really so hard on him. I think that next year would be his final shot in that top 6 role. Let's see if he can be the second line center that the Sens really need him to be. They don't need him to be the most skilled first line center in the world, just a steady second line center, maybe even third line, depending who comes up next year. And I think Colin White will be okay. Again, the contract is kind of unmovable, and I just don't see the trading thing. It doesn't make sense. What are you going to get back from, like a second round pick at most? And it's at that point, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, for a guy like Colin White, I think he will max out as a second, third line guy. I think he has defensive potential, but he needs to reach that potential. And for Colin White, more importantly, time's running out. Shane Pinto, 6 points or 7 points in his last 11 games. He's been incredible. If he can keep that up, if that second line center role is his, the first line, Josh Norris, I think it's safe to say that he's kind of earned. Yeah, I think he's kind of earned that role at this point. Colin White hasn't really. And then next year, you're going to have guys like Logan Brown, if he's still around, kicking for that spot. Colin White is going to, of course, be kicking for that third line center spot. Even guys like Parker Kelly in the future could be competing for that spot. The Senators have so many, not Parker Kelly, but the Senators have so many center depth, so much center depth that I can see Colin White transferring to a third right wing role, especially if the Ottawa Senators don't draft a right winger in the first round of this year's draft. But we can talk about the draft. We could talk about all that later. Let's get to the lineup for your Ottawa Senators for game number 56. It's insane that we are already here for game number 56. I'm going to zoom in a bit. All right. So, Noah, what are your initial thoughts on tonight's game? Pardon me. Yeah.
Logan Brown is the guy I kind of look at. Like Parker Kelly, like he wasn't really a guy I was circling on, like, oh, I need his NHL debut this year. But Logan Brown, we all know the story. He's a 2016 first round pick. He's kind of lingering around. You played a game or two in 2018, 2019, played a few. He scored a goal somewhere in that, but it just hasn't been good. It hasn't been the first round, like 12th overall caliber player that you expect from Logan Brown. But maybe, nothing to lose. Logan Brown, it's one game. Just play your heart out. One big game for you. This might be, I don't think it'll be it for Logan Brown on the Senators, but if it,
maybe,
he needs to have a good game to really put his name out there for next year.
I completely agree with that. I agree with that somewhat, actually. I completely agree with the fact that I think Logan Brown has something to prove, and more so can prove that. I think he has the talent to prove it. I also think that there's a chance that Logan Brown is here next year, not because the team wants him here. It's because they're not going to get any adequate value back in a potential trade for Logan Brown. He's been injured for most of the season. That's not his fault. Injuries, it's just bad luck on his part. But even when healthy, he hasn't really contributed this year. Last year, he's been better. This year, not so much. Only has 1 goal. So he's played a limited amount of games, but even when he's playing, he's not really producing. It's clear that the team is trying to move on. And I think Logan Brown probably wants to move on too. I think he could still be a successful player in this league. I think he just needs a change of scenery, to be honest. I think if he could get that change of scenery, he'll have a good career in the National Hockey League. But I think for Logan Brown tonight, listen, if he could score and leave a nice impression going into the offseason, I think that'd be huge. But for that fourth line as a whole, I want to speak about that fourth line. I tweeted it out earlier today. I could fully see one of those guys getting into a fight tonight because Parker Kelly and Alex Fermenton both play a chippy style game, and they're going to get into the face of a lot of Toronto Maple Leaf players. There's a battle. There's already a battle, rivalry mentality between these two teams. So I definitely can see Fermenton or Kelly instigating some sort of penalty fight. Now, the third line, Artie Party and Anisimov, potentially his final game in the National Hockey League. Shout out to Artem Anisimov. He's had a great career in the National Hockey League, 27, 28 points, I think, this year. He's been really, when he stepped into the lineup, he's been solid. I don't want him to resign here because it just wouldn't make sense for the Ottawa Senators to keep him long term. But I do hope Artem Anisimov finds somewhere in the National Hockey League next year to at least get some sort of NHL games in next year at least. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to re-sign Artem Anisimov. Like, he's been all right. If you've seen Sun Stonks, I've been really critical of Artem Anisimov. He's not my favorite player on the team, but it's a whole reason. That could be Colin White on the third line. That could be him in the third line center spot. You could make that case any day of the week, and it's probably a valid one. But you got to respect Artem Anisimov. He's played the full 60 every time he's on the ice, and got to respect that 20-something points this year. That's not bad at all. He hasn't even played all these games. So, it's what you expect from a guy like Anisimov, but I just couldn't see him come back. I don't know if it's for him in the NHL or just the Senators. Maybe he'll find a fourth line center job somewhere else, but congratulations. It's been a phenomenal career for him. Not many people get to play that many games, have that many consecutive contracts in the NHL, some job security as well. Like earlier on his career, it's a good thing to see for a guy like Artem Anisimov.
Now, before we speak about Brady Tkachuk, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, Tim Stutzle, we're going to profile all 4 of those players as we start to take a deep look into the Senators season as a whole. We're going to be here for the next hour. 6:45. We'll be here until 7:45. So we're going to have lots of Ottawa Senator coverage for you before tonight's final game. But I want to discuss the lines we still have right in front of us. Obviously, the Chuck Norris line, the Tkachuk, Norris, and Drake Batherson line is going to produce like usual. Drake Batherson, for example, like we saw already, is one of the leading goal scorers against Toronto this season for Ottawa. Now, I already spoke with that fourth line. I can see them getting into some fights potentially. They're a chippy line. I think the first line, like I just said, can contribute. But honestly, I'm excited to see all 4 of these lines, plus the defense and goaltender tonight. I think all can be exciting. And what's best about what's happening with Ottawa right now and comparing this lineup to game number 1, comparing the 2 lineups, the team is younger, it's faster, it's more skilled, and it's much more fun to watch. So my biggest takeaway is the fact that the Senators got younger, better, and faster in less than 56 games, and that's only going to help and pay dividends going into next year. But Noah, what players on the board right now are standing out to you for tonight's game?
For tonight's game, I already mentioned Logan Brown a little bit. You want to see something come from him. And you talked about Parker Kelly and Alex Formenton. I want to see Shane Pinto. It's a big rivalry game. It's the second line center, just under a phenomenal player, Josh Norris. I want to see a big game from Pinto. But I do want to take a look at the defense a little bit, because Victor Mete on the first pairing, that is going to be, I'm curious to see, because he's been a very surprising waiver pickup. I didn't have that as much hope or expectation for Victor Mete as other fans did.
Oh, I had a lot.
he's
Yeah,
really,
I don't. Yeah,
he's really exceeded his expectations here, and he's going to probably be back next year as well. So,
yeah. He's
like, who knows? I want to see a good time from him. He's paired with Zaitsev, who's had an up and down season, but I think that those two together, and then Brandstrom and Zub have been phenomenal together, just like Zub and Mike Riley when Mike Riley was here. So it's just Artem Zub. He has that quality that he can play with anyone and make them better. That's something you love to see from Zub. Him and Brandstrom, that's something to look at tonight.
You know, speaking of Zub, I think it's time we celebrate Zub. Let's throw on a little bit of a highlight package for the man, the legend, the myth himself, Artyom Zub. Let me throw that up right here. By the way, Sens fans, comment below right now in the chat box. Let me know how much you guys love Zub. Just spam Zub in the chat box. Sens Twitter, Noah, tell everyone. It's just facts. Sens Twitter absolutely loves this kid.
Everyone loves this guy. I love this guy. You love this guy. We all love Zub.
We all love Zuby. Play that. Enjoy this little highlight package by legendary Sens Talk producer Giordano Matissa. Gets you a little fired up too, huh? A little disco music.
Zub with the breakaway. Zub in, scores! A hard tumble to the corner boards.
Go Zub.
Artem Zub steps out of the penalty box and scores his first National Hockey League goal.
Let's go, Zub. That fired me up. All right, let's go, Zuby.
Against Toronto. That was just awesome when I saw it.
It's electric. Now, I think it's a good time, Noah. Like you can see, I think it's a good time to get into the core four young forwards that have excelled this year for the Ottawa Senators. That we're of course talking about Drake Batherson. Hold on, we're seeing look at all the Zub in the chat. Let's go, spam Zub in the chat, baby. But we're going to talk about Tim Stutzle, Brady Tkachuk, Drake Batherson, and Josh Norris. So let's start with Tim Stutzle. I'm going to throw on a little highlight package from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Tim Stutzle. By the way, that hat trick, I'm going to show that clip first. I'm going to find that for you guys. You know what I'm talking about, right? The other day, Sens fans went to his backyard.
That's Ottawa is just one of those cities that they love the Sens. Like when you're young, you're kind of grown into being an Ottawa Senators fan. It's really fun, and the throwing the hats, that was awesome.
It was awesome. It was. I got to throw it on the screen. I think. I think it's a must.
You have to.
I think it's a must. Yeah. All right. So credit goes to @PositiveSens fan for this video. Make sure to toss them a follow. Big respect to them setting this thing up. Apparently, I read Ian Mendes' article, and it looks like they have a little mini group chat going on with Brady Tkachuk too. So it's pretty cool. So here from Positive Sens fan, make sure to give them a follow if you want to see more of this potential great content. But essentially, the backstory here is, of course, when Tim Stutzle scored his hat trick, or it was lower end, but when Tim Stutzle scored his hat trick, there's no fans in the stands. So Sens fans in the neighborhood where Tim Stutzle, Josh Norris, Brady Tkachuk live threw some hats on to celebrate the hat trick for Tim Stutzle. It's honestly the most wholesome content you're probably ever going to see on the Twitter platform. Just look at all those great kids, great passion. Tim Stutzle, he's coming out there. He's a beauty. He's appreciative. And these are the things that players are going to remember for the rest of their lives, especially young players like Tim Stutzle, right?
Oh, that's something he's going to remember for the rest of his life, I'm sure. Like he has a bunch of, it's his little fans. It's fans of him they're just throwing a bunch of hats. It's awesome to see. I love seeing that.
It's honestly incredible. So now we're going to throw on the highlight package, but I had to show that video. Shout out to @PositiveSens fan for the video. That's just oh yeah, and Kevin just said almost 850,000 views on the video. It's honestly incredible. That thing has gone viral. Viral. Anyways, let's throw on the Tim Stutzle package, and then we're gonna have a little chat about Jimmy Stu, the next Sens superstar. So I'm gonna throw that on right now for you guys.
Side is the speedster Stutzle, and Stutzle scores. Short side goal for Tim Stutzle, and the Senators cut the 2-goal lead in half.
Let's go, Jimmy Stu. All right, Jimmy Stu, Tim Stutzle. That is 29 points in 52 games for Tim Stutzle. And Timmy has had an incredible year. There were some ups and downs. There were some moments where Tim Stutzle, it looked like, hey, some people were talking about sending him to the AHL. I was never one of those guys. I never wanted him down there. He's good enough for the NHL by far. There were some times where he had some scoring slumps, but he's really, as of late, especially rounded into form. And, he's starting to score and he's starting to get more confident. And, that hat trick just speaks volumes to what we can expect in the future for Tim Stutzle. So for Tim Stutzle, what were you expecting going into the season from Jimmy? And did he meet or exceed those expectations?
I think he met my expectations. Like, listen, he didn't light up the hockey world, get 52 points in 52 games and scoring like 26 goals and 26 assists. He didn't go crazy. Like that would be exceeding, but I think he met my expectations. He's been very solid this year. It's what I've wanted from a third overall pick. I haven't seen a talent like this in a very long time. Yeah. Just the hat trick, that kind of puts him above. That might even make him exceed my expectations. I didn't expect Tim Stutzle to score a hat trick this year.
Yeah.
But, he's gotten a little bit more consistent with his goal scoring and his point getting. He can always work in his defensive play. I mean, every forward can. But, I'm very excited for Tim Stutzle, especially with a better team around him, a more experienced team around him. He's going to be phenomenal. He's a good young player.
And before I give my response, I see some people asking questions. After we discuss a few Sens players and go through their seasons, we're going to answer your questions. Don't worry, so stick around. Now, going back to Tim Stutzle, I agree. Going into the season, going into the draft, going into the draft lottery, if Ottawa did not get the first overall selection, I wanted Tim Stutzle from the beginning. Go back, watch the tapes. You can go check it out. This is not a take or a lie. Go back to my Tim Stutzle draft video. Go back to my draft lottery video. I've always wanted Tim Stutzle because his hands, his skating, and his hockey IQ, these are things you don't teach. Skating, sure, you can teach. But hockey IQ and this silky hands that are natural, you can practice, but to have the touch that he has, like a Pavel Datsyuk, it's incredible. So for Tim Stutzle, going into the season, I didn't expect him to have a 30-goal season. I didn't expect him to have 80 points or 50 points, whatever it would be in the 56-game season. But for Tim Stutzle, I expected exactly what he provided this year. Just under 30 points, 25 to 35 points, I believe is exactly what I said I would expect from him this season anyways. That's what we're getting. I think next year in a full 82-game season, you can expect to see Jimmy Stu get around 55 to 65 points next year, potentially. But for Tim Stutzle this season, it has been a success and a successful story, to say the least. He's reached about 10 goals now. And every single game, especially the last 10, 15 games, I think you mentioned in your Sens Stonks video, Noah, that he has, really in the last 10, 15 games, his Stonks are rising. To take the quote from you yourself, he started really scoring lately, and especially the last 10, 15 games, every single game, there's a few plays where you're like, holy cow, Tim Stutzle, that was impressive. And for a forward, you don't usually see that. But for him, you see that every single game. There's a few opportunities for him where he's setting up plays, he's driving possession into the offensive zone, and he's setting up or creating scoring chances or even getting scoring chances. So the fact he's getting the scoring chances means he's going to start putting those in more often. And we're already seeing that as of late. He's starting to put those pucks in the net more often. So for a guy like Tim Stutzle, like Noah said, and I'll say it as well, the future is bright and it's only going to get better for this kid. Now, I'm going to read a couple of your things because I'm seeing something. Where would you rank the Sens compared to all Canadian teams? I'll just answer this question real quick. I would put them third. I think it would be Toronto, Edmonton, and then Winnipeg, then Ottawa. I think Ottawa is better than Montreal. They beat them like 6 times this year. Ottawa beating Montreal anyways, that is. So Ottawa is definitely a better team than Montreal, in my opinion. They're a better team than Calgary, and they're a better team than Vancouver. They have better records than all of those teams in this season anyways. So I think next year, listen, if Ottawa is somehow in the Atlantic, in the North Division next year and it continues, they're a playoff team. If they're in the Atlantic Division, they're not. Because then you got Florida, Boston, everything. But yeah, definitely top 3 in my opinion. Now the next player, go ahead.
I think if you play this roster with this confidence level that they have, they would have won way more games. They would be in the playoff hunt, if not even in the playoffs, just because of their dominance over Montreal most of the time. So I just wanted to say this team is going to look very good next year. And depending what the division layout is, we might see Ottawa Senators playoff hockey, but I don't know. Gun.
Now the next player, it's potentially the future captain, Brady Tkachuk. I'm gonna throw in a little highlight package for Brady himself. Oh, that's funny. All right. So Brady Tkachuk, what can I say about this guy? 35 points in 55 games. He's incredible. He's by far the leader of this team. He's the future captain of this team. I could go on and on about the kid, but Noah, I'll let you do the honors. What do you think? What were your expectations going into the season? Has he met those expectations? And more importantly, will he be the next captain of your Ottawa Senators?
Yes,
I agree.
The next captain of the Ottawa Senators. He exceeded my expectations this year.
Yeah.
The points. Listen, everyone looks at, he only has, if it was a full 82 game season, it'd be like 55, 60 points. That's really good.
Yes.
For a player, again, a player as young as Tkachuk on a team as young as Ottawa, and the beginning of the season, they were not good at all. They were getting slapped around by every team. So
yeah,
exceeded my expectations. He's shot to the stars. He's been awesome and always electric he's electric on the ice. He's physical. He's a leader. He's the guy, the face of the franchise, who will be able to, bring the Ottawa Senators to relevance as long as he just continues his efficiency. He's been phenomenal. He's the guy that all of the kids are going to want to put on the back of their jersey with the C. He's going to be awesome. The next captain, 100%. He's the next guy that city of Ottawa will love. Yeah,
I completely agree. Firstly, like you said, yes, Brady Tkachuk will be the next captain of the Ottawa Senators, especially if he signs a long-term deal with Ottawa. Now, if he goes the Mark Stone route and signs a one-year deal, then I don't even know what I'll do with myself if this guy signs a one-year deal. I think I'll question a lot of things in life if that happens, but hopefully that doesn't happen. For Brady Tkachuk, 35 points, 55 games is incredible. And more importantly, it's his off-the-ice leadership that's impressed me the most this season. He has turned into such a leader in the locker room. He's matured overnight. He went from that, that kid. Everyone thought in the NHL last year about Brady Tkachuk that he's that kid that, he's that annoying little kid in the back of the classroom. But in reality, Brady Tkachuk is probably one of the most mature leaders, in the locker room. And he's only 23, I believe, or like 22, 20, or 20. He's 20? Is he like 21? How old is he?
He's 21 or 22.
Yeah, he's a young guy. He is a clear leader in the locker room. He says all the right things. Like the other day, when he was talking about the Tim Stutzle, the hat thing, like we just spoke about with Tim Stutzle, he mentioned how he sees how great this community is and how much the team and how much his play and how much this team means to the community. And the fact that he understands that and the fact that he embraces that and appreciates that shows how much of a captain and true leader he is. And on top of that, when your father's Keith Tkachuk and you have a family like Brady Tkachuk has, you're going to be a leader. You're going to be a natural born leader because you've been basically groomed throughout your whole life to be a leader. So for Brady Tkachuk, I think it only makes sense, not only because, like you said, he's a fan favorite, he's going to be on the back of every single jersey in the Canadian Tire Center next year when we go back to games, but more importantly, he is the face of the franchise. He is potentially the franchise savior, may I say, because things were looking very bleak when we drafted him a few years ago. So Brady Tkachuk deserves to be the captain. I think he will be the captain. Brady Tkachuk is only going to get better, and that's what's scarier. As all these players around him gets better, Brady Tkachuk is already producing it at a high level. So just imagine when the players next to him are producing at high levels, Brady Tkachuk, his ceiling is so high, and he's, oh my God, you know what he is? He's the clean version of Tom Wilson. He's not a dirty player. He gets in your head. He'll score goals. Every hockey guy, every hockey person wants him, but he's not a dirty player like Tom Wilson. He won't throw your ass to the ground and try to assault you. What, Noah? Say it again.
Better than Tom Wilson.
He is 100% better than Tom Wilson. I agree with that. Now, the next player is Drake Batherson. This guy has had the most points for Ottawa against Toronto in the season series. I believe he has 8 points against Toronto. 5 of those were assists. 3 of those were goals this season for Drake Batherson. We're going to roll a little bit of a highlight package for the Drake, the best Drake in the world. Some would say. I don't know if that's a hot take. I think people in Ottawa would definitely say though that Drake Batherson's the best Drake to come out of Canada. But that's just what some people say. I'm not saying I say that. And let's get to the Drake highlight package, and then we'll talk about him for a bit.
Rebound.
let's just talk about this. All right, look at these stats, Noah. Look at these stats. Like 55 games, 34 points in essentially his rookie season, 17 goals. Noah, I think the Sanders might have found their RW1 of the future. What do you think?
I think you might be right. All of these young players that are like the Tkachuks and the Bathersons, and obviously we'll talk about Josh Norris later. They have all that trio, and then Tim Stutzle we've already talked about. That trio of players who there aren't rookies. I guess Norris is, but they aren't quite as young as Stutzle is, but they're still the young core of the team. They have all exceeded my expectations, including Batherson. He's a bigger guy. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He's a power. He can play like a power forward. He can snipe like a sniper. He has 17 assists. He can be a playmaker as well. He's like the perfect line mate with your Brady Tkachuks or your Tim Stutzle. He works with everyone. A strong, bigger guy who can get to the net and score, or he can make insane passes and dish it to the other guy. He's just a phenomenal line mate to have. 17 by 17 is a phenomenal in 55 games. That's really good for a player like Batherson, and he's going to be really, really scary to play against next year.
In an 82-game season, he would essentially be hitting 25-30 goals, 25-30 assists. And I think I'll take that, to be honest. I think that's pretty good. What do you think?
I'd definitely take that. Listen, 25-25, that's just awesome. A player like that in Ottawa doesn't come around that often. So, when it does, you gotta hold them dear. And
now, like you mentioned about his size, in his first season when he was playing with Matt Duchene, and then when we saw Matt Duchene traded from Ottawa, Drake Batherson's numbers declined, and then he was sent back down to the AHL. That was his first taste of the NHL. And like he's mentioned with his size, I think in the offseason, he really worked on his strength, his physicality, and his size in general. I think that's really helped him take the next step in the National Hockey League, because now he doesn't lose the puck on the boards every single time. He's able to command the ice himself, and more importantly, he controls the play at times. So Drake Batherson's size definitely has helped his, I'm sure the training he did during last offseason is clearly paying off. And I'm pretty sure Drake Batherson works out during every single offseason in Nova Scotia with like Sidney Crosby and Brad Marchand and all these other electric players. So Drake Batherson is literally learning from the best. So I think the best is yet to come for Drake Batherson. Now, the final player we get to, before we get to the question period of today's stream, we got 40 minutes left before we say goodbye. The next player is Josh Norris. And I think before we even get to the highlight package, Josh Norris has been by far probably the most surprising player of the season for Ottawa, if not one of the most surprising players for the Ottawa Sanders this season. Listen, going into the season, we didn't really know what to expect from Josh Norris. He was a player that excelled in the AHL last year, but he was also a player that we did not know much about that came from the Erik Karlsson deal. So we didn't really expect much from Josh Norris. And that's, I think, why so many fans are so high on Josh Norris. It's because he's exceeded expectations so much, and he's proven so much that they're like, wow, we should have seen this guy coming. Because look, 34 points, 55 games. That's great, but that doesn't really matter when it comes to the fact that he's starting against guys like Connor McDavid. He's starting against guys like Austin Matthews. He's starting against guys like even Sean Monahan. He's starting against some of the top centers in the National Hockey League, day in and day out, especially in the North Division, playing Connor McDavid 9 times, playing Toronto and Austin Matthews 8 times. He could go through the whole list. John Tavares, even if he has to play against the second line. Josh Norris' defensive game this season is the reason why I think Josh Norris is the number one center of the future. His offense speaks for itself, but the defense needs to be mentioned because he's been such an incredible two-way forward for the Ottawa Sanders. And I think, like I said, he's just a rookie, and he's only going to get better like the rest of these players we're talking about right now. What do you think, Noah?
Oh, 100%. There were questions going in at the beginning of the year, first 5 or 10 games. Everyone's like, oh my God, who's going to be the top center? It doesn't look like Norris is there. Well, we have to move Stutzle to center. No, it's Norris. It's Josh Norris. I think one thing that has to be mentioned, and this goes for all 4 of these guys, it's like some time at the half point of the year when the Sens stopped it's really when Matt Murray initially got injured and had to play and they got Forsberg and they had to end playing Decord. Yeah. those 4 guys, it's like they aged another year and they just turned it up one like more notch. We became a lot more confident in Norris as the 1C, and Batherson just emerged, and Brady Tkachuk just excelled, and Stutzle with the hat trick. Like, it's really at the beginning of the year, like these point totals are a lot better when you think about it, because like the whole team was just so bad at the beginning. And
terrible.
Like I think it was the first Matt Murray injury when they were playing with Joey Daccord and net. Since then they have been phenomenal. And if they got the points at that pace, we could have been seeing 40 points, 45 points for some of these guys. And it's just Josh Norris has to be. And I was going to say it before you did. The most surprising player of the 4 players that we've talked about, Josh Norris, hands down. And maybe the team, maybe there's a couple guys or Connor Browns or Artem Zub, but he's up there. He's top 3, top 2 probably. He's been phenomenal. He's the top center. We don't have to think about that anymore. And Josh Norris, 2-way center as well. That's always great to have. He's been phenomenal. And some of the shots he takes, like, man, that's an electric shot for a 2-way center. He rips it over big goaltenders like Markstrom and Hellebuck. Like, this guy's special, man. And him and Batherson, it gets me so excited. I
think what's even most impressive, Noah, is the fact on the power play. This guy literally is the general on that power play. Everything runs through him on the right hash mark point. And I mentioned this multiple times in my Sens recap videos, which are unfortunately coming to a close tonight for this season anyways, because of we're obviously going to continue it next season. But, unfortunately, of course, no Sens games, no more post-game recaps. I think that's pretty obvious. But for Josh Norris, this guy on the power play on that right hash mark, he's creating plays. Look at that pass to Brady Tkachuk that we saw earlier in one of the highlight packages. Look at these plays. He either passes it to the blue line or he passes in front of the net. Usually a power play runs through the blue line. But for Ottawa, and when the recent success started hitting, like especially in the month of April, they were one of the best power play teams in the National Hockey League. Why, you may ask? It's because of Josh Norris, and it's because it runs through him. Most teams have their power play run through the blue line. No, not the Ottawa Senators. They have them on the hash mark, which gives a bunch of space. You could get a pass here to the right of the net, right in front of the net, back to the point, the reset. I think it's great, and I think that a little adjustment like that really went a long way. It also gives Tim Stutzle a lot of space on the other side and give him a nice pass, let him rip it too, which we've seen a few times this season as well. Now, before we get to everyone's questions, Josh Norris, like we've said, we've raved about the kid. We've completely raved about the kid for at least 10 minutes now. So let's give him a little bit of love with a highlight package, and then we're going to get to your questions. So I'm going to get to that highlight package right now because this kid is an absolute stud. So let's get to it right now. I mean, look, 15 goals, 18 assists, 33 points, 53 games. In a regular season, that's 50, 60 points. As a rookie, playing first-line minutes against Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, this kid, I think, Noah, we can both very much agree, as we've been talking about it for a minute. This kid is a stud, and he's the future number 1 center for the Ottawa Senators for sure.
100%. And not even to mention, you have to play against also the top offensive juggernaut of Winnipeg. Scheifele, Connor, Wheeler, you have to play those guys. And it's just awesome to see a nice young core of Ottawa Senators players. We haven't had this good, solid young core that play so well together, and they have such good chemistry, and they're really good in the locker room as well. This is a really good group of guys, and a guy like Josh Norris, his emergence this year has just been everything Ottawa wanted.
Also, if you haven't noticed, if you look at the stream, probably on your other screen, Tim Stutzle is literally looking right up at us in the top right corner. How you doing, Jimmy? Nice to see you, bud. It looks like his. You see that?
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to get to your questions. I know a lot of you guys have been in the chat waiting very patiently as we've been on here for about 42 minutes now. So let's throw that on the screen. Let's get to some of your questions. Comment below right now any questions you got. Anything. Literally anything is on the board right now. We'll talk about it, almost anything. So ask your questions and we'll be sure to answer. So fire them away right now. And I look forward to reading them. So let's see what's going on here. Firstly, Noah, talk to us about your day. How you been? Is life treating you well?
Life's treating me well. Long day, early day for work, but otherwise we're good. We're ready for the Sens game tonight.
In my opinion, work started now at 6:30. This is true work.
Exactly.
All right, the first question comes in from Oliver Ty. They asked, does Logan Brown crack the lineup next year? I don't. I don't know. I don't think so. I think Logan Brown gets traded in the offseason, even for a third, fourth round pick. I think they just ship him out. I think really Gray, Colin White are definitely above him, potentially for roster spots next season. And Logan Brown, I think the ship has sailed. I think it's best for both teams, for the team and for him himself, for both parties, for a change of scenery. And I think Logan Brown could certainly be a National Hockey League player. I think he could be a great National Hockey League player. I just don't think it will be with the Ottawa Senators. I think it will be with another team. So, no, I think he gets traded. Noah?
Oh, my God. I want so bad because
I know.
No, it's so like demoralizing when you see Ottawa draft the guy 12th overall and he's a bust. And like I don't want to use that term all around because it's not really something like some people call some player a bust when they're not, but really it is a bust. This early of a pick, like it's so sad to see they traded up to pick him too. Like they knew he was
just a third rounder, but I get that. I get the point. Yeah,
and it's I think that he can, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded as well. It's just I hope it's not like another Zibanejad and another Silverberg and another again and again and again. A nice young player that Ottawa failed to develop and they excelled somewhere else. We've heard this story before. There are star players in this league that started in Ottawa and they're gone.
For Logan Brown, what I will say is normally I would agree with you. We agree on many things. When it comes to Logan Brown, I think it more has to do with his injuries than anything else. I think he got opportunities. Sure, I would have liked to see him get more opportunities in the National Hockey League. But Logan Brown definitely got NHL opportunities at all levels. In the AHL, he got prime opportunities to succeed, and he did multiple occasions. That's on the Ottawa Senators for not calling up to the NHL. They should have called him up last year earlier, but they didn't. That being said, Logan Brown has a lot of injury problems, all right? So sure, Ottawa, did they mess up a bit on his development? Sure, yes and no. You can debate that. Did they keep him in the NHL too long? You can debate that. But what's not debatable is the fact that Logan Brown has serious injury problems. Even going back to the OHL, Logan Brown has continually, every single season, been out for some sort of time because of an injury. So injuries are holding his career back, unfortunately, and hopefully next year, whether it's with the Ottawa Senators or another hockey team, he can hopefully put together a full, healthy season, and he can finally show scouts, people, fans, what he truly is made of. Let's look at some other questions here. I'll answer this one quickly, Noah, because I think you'll agree. The Beth asks, do you see Sanderson playing for the Sens like Pinner and JBD this year? No, he's already committed to UND for next season. He maybe gets in for the last 5-10 games like JBD did, but not for a full season if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I think he does what Jacob Bernard, Docker, and Pinto did, but next year.
Yeah, like at the end, late in the end, yeah. Now, Jesse Lachance asks about the draft. We're going to talk about the draft probably coming up, to be honest. Instead of the expansion draft, how about this, Noah? When we're talking about the goaltending and the Croix de Crease, we'll talk about the expansion draft then, and we'll talk about the draft after that. So we'll get to that question after because we'll talk about the draft very soon. Now, one more question because we're running out of time here. We got 30 minutes left. And we got some more things to speak about, but I want to get to your questions. Let's see. There's a lot of good questions here. Kadar Aiden asks, what will Ottawa need to do in free agency this season for Ottawa? Good question, Kadar. I don't know. You don't have to do too much. I rather like, especially the forward core. I think Noah. I'll let you speak after. I'll let you speak for yourself. But I think you will agree with me when I say the forward core doesn't really need to be tinkered with. If you want to retain any veteran, keep a Ryan Dzingel around as a fourth line guy. But you remember, we also got Austin Watson, who's been out for a while. He'll be on the fourth line. You got Fermenton, you got Shane Pinto, you got potentially an Abramov, and potentially Igor Sokolov, Parker Kelly. There's a lot of young forwards that are projected to be pushing for spots next year, let alone the fact that Ottawa has a bunch of already established initial forwards that are going to likely be around next season for Ottawa. So when it comes to forwards, no, I don't think we need anyone. Now on the back end, a right-handed defenseman would be nice. Some sort of veteran right-handed defenseman on a one-year deal to stabilize things. I would do that. But honestly, if I'm the Ottawa Senators general manager, it would be a quiet offseason for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the forwards and for the defense, I think you can kind of get it's weird because I feel like they made the right free agency acquisitions last year, but they played them so much, and really they were supposed to be replacements for these top guys if they get hurt. That really, for defense, I want to get like maybe a bit better than Braden Colburn kind of guy who can maybe be defenseman, but also really like it's if Brandstrom gets hurt, if Shabbat gets hurt, if one of those top guys gets hurt, you can put this defenseman in. He's done it before, and we'll be all good. Forward, we can get the same thing, but they do have a lot of depth in that like kind of fourth line forward situation. I'm not really too concerned about that at all. But they don't have to do much at all. You have to build from within. They don't need goaltending. They don't need to talk about that. And there's not much Ottawa needs to do.
Now, I'm going to move it on to evaluating DJ Smith's season. It's been an interesting season for DJ Smith, especially at the beginning of the season. A lot of people were calling for his head, to be honest, to be fired. After the end of the season, I think many Sens fans would agree that he is the coach going into the next season, and I think many fans would be very comfortable with that. Noah, are you one of those fans?
Yeah, I haven't had an issue, especially recently with DJ Smith. I was really not happy with him with the whole Artem Anisimov, Colin White situation.
Yep.
Playing Brandstrom all that much, maybe overusing Shabbat. Maybe he still does that, but I mean, obviously not now because he's injured. But throughout the season, he kind of put Shabbat out for like 30-35 minutes. Like you don't need to do that.
Yeah, no, please no more.
No, I think he's the guy. It's difficult to say if he's the guy who takes Ottawa all the way, but you cannot deny that he has done a phenomenal job with the pieces that he's been given. Right? It's not like you're being given Matthews and Marner, and like it's not like you step in and you elite phenomenal team. Like he doesn't have that. He last year and this year it's not been the best team he's had to work with, but he's been very good. And again, like I said, mid-season, that turn up of those young core players, you got to give some of that respect to DJ Smith. He's the coach. He must have done something. So honestly, I think he's the guy for at least next year.
I agree. I think what speaks volumes is the fact that he clearly has a grasp on the locker room, and the players and everyone seems to respond to him. So when you have the locker room connected to the coach, there's no reason to fire the coach. I don't care if you like or hate the coach, disagree with his line of decisions. If the locker room believes in his message, then you cannot fire the coach. Then you're just going to ruin the morale in the locker room. So, and also DJ Smith, hey, Sanders are producing results under this guy in the second half of the season once he's been forced to play the young guys. So sure, all hockey coaches, I've said this in like half my videos this year. All hockey coaches will make decisions that you're going to disagree with. Whether it's, scratching Zub and Colin White for the first like 5 games of the season, whether it's, for like Mike Babcock, for example, when he scratched Jason Spezza against Ottawa last year. I disagree with that too, but every single coach is going to make decisions that you disagree with. It's about whether or not they make enough right decisions to be successful. And DJ Smith, while Ottawa's not exactly a successful team right now, quote unquote, we're in a rebuild. For DJ Smith, the second half of the season shows what the potential of this team can be, the ceiling potentially can be with the Ottawa Senators, with DJ Smith as the head coach. So I think DJ is the right guy for the job right now. And more importantly, I think DJ Smith always from the beginning of the season, his forward groups were usually good. I always was a fan of his forward groups. He always put Tim Stutzle and Brady Tkachuk and Batherson, Norris. He put these guys in prime opportunities to produce at high levels. I would credit DJ Smith to see Josh Norris's development. I credit DJ Smith in Tim Stutzle's development. I credit DJ Smith in Batherson's development. When it comes to the forwards, DJ Smith has been incredible. Now, when it comes to the defensive pairings, this is where I've been a little questionable about his decisions. JBD being out for a long time, Chabot playing 30, 35 minutes. Not really his fault. There's not much other talent that can subside for Chabot, but regardless, you're overplaying Chabot. You're benching JBD. Zub didn't get into the lineup until 12 games in, when Sens Twitter was literally on their hands and knees begging the Sens org to play Zuby. And of course, that I think we can all say that worked out. But for DJ Smith, overall, I give it, I'll let you grade him after me. I give him like a BB plus this season. He wasn't a superstar, but the team progressed and our rookies developed. And that's all you can ask for in a rebuilding year.
Yeah, I'll give him, he met my expectations. He didn't exceed them, but he met my expectations. I'll give him a B.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on now. We already kind of discussed it's Zub, Norris, Stutzle. These are the guys that exceeded expectations. I think we can agree on that. But I want to discuss players, Noah, that did not meet expectation this season. I'll go first, and then I'll let you go. So I got two players. It's Chris Turney, and it's Matt Murray. Marcus Hogberg, I would throw in there too, but he's less relevant. He's the backup, and he's clearly leaving. So Matt Murray is here next year for sure, and Chris Turney's under contract. So they're both here. So for Chris Turney, Noah and I, we chat a lot. Obviously, we're literally brothers. So we chat about Chris Turney a lot. And we're not exactly the biggest fans at the moment because Chris Turney, it seems almost every single game, Chris Turney has a play that frustrates the hell out of you. He just throws the puck away when he has a prime scoring chance. I remember there's this great chance against Montreal. He had a puck right in front of the net and just threw it over there on a backhand. Didn't even turn to put a forehand shot on that. He just put a backhand floater over the net in a prime scoring opportunity. So Chris Turney, last year, I thought he was a serviceable third-line guy. This year, he has not been. He's a offensive liability. Defensively, he's whatever, but offensively, he's a liability. He doesn't produce. He has like 4 goals this season. And, it just seems like he doesn't really have any passion or care or, energy in the game. I don't know what it is with Chris Turney. Last year, he was a good player, but this year, Chris Turney has definitely disappointed me, to say the least. Now, Matt Murray would be the other guy that's disappointed me. I mentioned when the rumors begun about Matt Murray that I would not trade for Matt Murray. But I do like this trade still for Ottawa. Trading a B level prospect and a second round pick for a 2-time Stanley Cup goaltender. That's always going to be a win. Now, the contract we immediately signed Matt Murray to is very questionable, to say the least. But for Matt Murray, hey, listen, we saw what he can be, especially at the end of the season. He had great numbers at the end of the season. So for a guy like Matt Murray, it's disappointing, but I do think he can, definitely build off of the end of the season and go into next season and start to play at the level we expect him to. But listen, time's ticking for him. You got Gustafson and potentially Joey Daccord sticking around next year to compete for that spot. So for Matt Murray, the time is nigh, to say the least. If you're a Sens fan, you should probably know that quote. The time is nigh for Matt Murray, and he's disappointed me really, really, really hard this year. But Noah, who has disappointed you the most this season for Ottawa?
I did want to touch on Tierney. I don't know what his contract situation is.
He's 1 year left.
There, I don't see him coming back. Definitely not past that. Maybe he's even gone, shipped for a 4th or a 5th. Like it's just nothing. He's nothing. But I think a player who's even worse than nothing, a player that we signed for a decent amount of money, Evgeny Dadonov, 3 years, $5 million per. And I think if he had any assists at all this year, I think he has 4 assists this year in all the games. He scored 12 goals or something, which is okay, or whatever it is this year. I need a lot more from Evgeny Dadonov. He has almost been invisible at some time.
I hate to interrupt. I think what's most disappointing is 1 power play point this season. He was he came in here hailed as this power play specialist, and he has 1 point this season. Listen, I think Dadonov is a great player, and I think he's definitely going to be better next year. But like you just said, no assists, barely any goals, streaky player. and the streaks haven't really hit this year. So as you were saying, go ahead. But yeah, it's just
Not like great defensively either. It
Yeah.
just kind of, we expected him to be the guy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily even Drake Batherson. We expected him to, he scores a lot of goals. He's the guy. We saw what he could do in Florida. Maybe he's the first line right wing. And just like, again, one power play point, still one power play point. This was a point I brought up like 2 months ago, but he still has one power play point. Like, come on, man. We need more from Dadonov. But I do want to kind of counter on Murray a little bit. I
Go
kind
ahead.
of say Murray is like the epitome of the Ottawa Senators season. His performance is the of the season, because at the beginning he sucked. Everyone sucked. He sucked as well. They were all bad. And then once he got injured, he worked his way back. Just like the team, they were working their way back. He came back. He was kind of like on something there. Like he had a string of 5, 6, 7 starts where all of his save percentages were above 900. He got 2 shutouts this year towards the end of the year. Definitely improved. And if he plays like he did in the second half of the season, we're okay. The trade's
I agree.
But if anything comes back from that first half, it's just not happy sights in Ottawa at all.
And I want to mention what Jordan Mills just said on the chat. He mentioned, or whoever mentioned, he has nights where he looks great, but just as many nights where he's invisible. That's, of course, about Evgeny Dadonov, which I agree. And more importantly, like he said about the defensive side of his game, he gets knocked knocked off the puck like it's nothing, like it's like a little bit of a wind will knock the puck off of his stick. So he's definitely got to work on his possession game, because it seems every single game with Evgeny Dadonov, I don't really want to harp on the guy too much. It's the first season in a COVID year. It's not exactly ideal conditions for any of these players. But for $15 million for the next 3 years, coming in as a power play specialist, you got to expect more. So for Dadonov, he's going to be a great player. I think he will be protected in the expansion draft. I see people saying he's not going to be. He will be protected in the expansion draft. I think next year, listen, if he doesn't perform next year, then we got a problem. But I think it's 1 year. Things can change. Now, I want to move on. We got 30 minutes left, or 30 or 40 minutes left, however you want to go on for this stream. We got about 25, 30 minutes left. So, actually, 7:30. We got 15 minutes. Wow. Should I wear my glasses, man? Jeez. I can't read my clock now. But anyways, we're speaking about the crease. Let's continue on with the crease. So next year, we got a lot of goaltenders in competition for that starting and backup position. So Marcus Hogberg, I think it's safe to say he's gone. He's going to be a restricted free agent, but I think he'll be granted a release. He's going to be gone. I think it's safe to say, especially with that Anton Forsberg deal, that Gustafsson, Hogberg stays with the Ottawa Senators are limited. Now, Forsberg signed a 1 year, $900,000 extension with Ottawa Senators. Other than that, you got Philip Gustafsson, who's starting tonight for Ottawa, Joey Decord, and Matt Murray. So who's the starting goaltender? Who's the backup goaltender? And who's the goaltender who's taken by Seattle?
Hogberg, I just wanted to say about Hogberg, I think he's just by the skin of his teeth. This guy with a couple of good performances towards the end of the year, he saved his NHL career. I think he
hopefully
the guy who would have gone to somewhere in Russia or Europe, because I don't think he would have found a job if he didn't bounce back he did. But his days in Ottawa are definitely for sure gone with the 4 solid goaltenders Ottawa has here. Obviously Seattle's not going to take Forsberg. No. Doesn't make sense, but obviously they just signed an extension, so he will be here. Part of me kind of questions why, but if Seattle takes either Decord or Gustafsson, then it would make sense to have a third goalie. I do think that Murray is the starter still. I think realistically, when you look at it, there's one goalie who just showed a little bit more potential, showed a little bit more complete talent, and that's Gustafsson. He has to stay the backup to me. And listen, I don't think it means Decord gets taken. I think there might be a chance that they don't even take Decord, depending on there's so many competent goalies, starters, backups across the league. Ottawa might be lucky by that fact. There's a lot of, there's Bishop Kudobin and there's Rask Halak. There's this and that, like for a lot of teams. And I think Ottawa got really lucky in that situation. But I think Decord is the one who gets exposed over the two with him and Gustafsson. I just think Gustafsson has proved a little bit more. They invested a little bit more in Gustafsson. It wouldn't make sense really to not protect him. But that doesn't say that Decord is a bad goalie, that he hasn't played well this year when he was on the team, and that they don't care about his injury or anything like that. Yeah. Decord is good. He is definitely the Sens will definitely be sad to see Decord go.
Now, I completely agree on the fact that I think Ottawa will select to keep Philip Gustafson in the protected anyways in the expansion draft. I think it goes for, I think that's for a few reasons. One, no one's picking up Matt Murray's contract, all right? No, especially Seattle. Two, Philip Gustafson not only has had a better season than Joey Decord this season, he's also younger. He was also acquired in a blockbuster deal that traded Derek Brassard at the time, and it was a blockbuster deal, traded Derek Brassard to Pittsburgh for Gustafson and Jacob Bernard-Docker. So he's a part of a big deal. He's a younger goaltender, and he has essentially been the starting goaltender for Ottawa for the last month and a half. So yes, Gustafson will be selected as expansion draft protectee for the goaltender position. I think Decord will not be taken. Listen, he's 24, 25. He has some injury. He's coming off an injury. Not the most attractive for Seattle. I think that's a mistake for Seattle. If I was Seattle, I would probably take Decord anyways as a third goalie that developed in the AHL. Because listen, Joey Decord, I really think he has potential to be a starter in this league, and same with Philip Gustafson. So it'd be a shame for Ottawa to lose either or. But yeah, I agree. I think Gustafson gets taken. Not taken. I think he gets protected. I think Decord is left exposed, and I think Murray and Gustafson start as their starter and backup duo in the NHL next year, with Decord starting in the AHL to get some rehab games in because he's coming off an injury, and Forsberg will be the third goalie or whatever, especially if for some reason the taxi squad is still around next season. Now, I want to move on now. We got a 12 minutes left. We could have talked about the expansion draft a little bit more, but we kind of just did. Like Chris Turney, it's either going to be Chris Turney or one of the goalies taking the expansion draft for Ottawa, unless Ottawa does something crazy, like leaves Dadonov or something, or a Nick Paul for whatever reason. But I don't see that happening. So it's going to be one of the goalies or Turney, right?
Even depending on how many, I don't know how many defensemen. I'm assuming it's the same rules as it was Vegas, and if that's the case, it'd be obviously Shabbat protected and Zoo probably be protected, and then I don't know who's eligible. I don't know who's eligible.
I'm pretty sure the fifth guy, like there's 3 players. There's 5 defensemen right now on the team that are eligible. 3 of them is like Zaitsev, Shabbat, and like Mete or something, and then the other 2 is like I think Oli Alsing maybe and like Cody Golubev. Like
so there's no defenseman.
They're not taking a defenseman off this team, no, because they're
Alsing scores like 7 points tonight. Maybe he'll
listen. If that happens, I will buy you dinner for a month. That would be insane. Anyways, let's talk about tonight's game. Ottawa's taking on Toronto. Let's wrap it up here with the last 10, 11 minutes to go. Ottawa's taking on Toronto. So before we even get into tonight's game, actually, in the next 3 years, who's going to be the better team? It's going to be the Ottawa Senators, or is it going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs? In the next 3 years, who's the better team?
In the next 3 years.
Hot take.
Senators are going to be the better team. You just have to give it to them. Toronto are going through, it's 3 years from now. Toronto, what is their cap situation even like? Their team is going to be so shallow, and especially if in these 3 years they do not advance around, they do not win a cup, go to the front, whatever, there is going to be some issues. They have a lot of long-term deals. They have a long-term deal with Matthews and a long-term with Tavares and Marner and Nylander. Those 4 are locked up. Riley's going to get a big extension. That's an underrated guy who I think his contract expires next year. He's going to get at least a $1, $2, $3 million raise over what he already has. And Jack Campbell's going to have to get paid if they keep him over Freddie. So I think Toronto is cap-wise, and Muzzin and all these guys, I think Toronto is just going to kind of hollow out, kind of like how the Chicago Blackhawks did. So I think if you're Toronto, you need to win now, because if not, it's going to be Matthews and Marner and then Nylander trying to carry the scraps of these like random fourth line nobodies that you're going to have to continue to produce, kind of like how Pittsburgh has. Pittsburgh has kind of produced fourth line forwards and third line forwards that they don't have to pay a lot. They kind of produce them at will. It's like the Connor Shearys and the Brian Rust and Zach Aston Reeves. These are guys that they just produce and produce and produce. And then when they need contracts, they ship them off. But they produce so they can work for the playoff run, and then they leave them. So if Toronto can't do that, it'll be Ottawa. Ottawa is a better cap situation. They don't have this top dollar guys. They don't need that. And I don't think Brady Tkachuk's gonna be asking for $10 million. And it's like it, I just think that Ottawa's gonna be in a better situation. They have a lot of depth, a lot of young guys, and then 3 years from now, they're gonna be really friggin' good.
I think I would love to say Ottawa, and I agree with you about the Toronto cap situation. But if they somehow keep Austin Matthews there, and they somehow rebuild that goaltending position and keep a solid goaltender in place there, and they somehow continue with a great decor, I agree with you. I think Toronto needs to win within the next 3 years, honestly, within the next 3 years, or else they're going to have to kind of retool, I think, especially because of the cap. I think Ottawa has a better future within the next 5-10 years. But I think immediately right now or within the next 5 years, I think Toronto obviously is in their cup window. So it's tough to say. I think in the next 3 years, Toronto will be better, but I think Ottawa is going to be a playoff team, and they're going to be fighting with Toronto for playoff positioning in the next 3 years. I think we both can agree on that. So I think at the end of the day, both teams in the next 3 years, the Battle of Ontario is going to get really, really heated, I think, in the next 3 years.
Super heated. I'm very excited.
Now, we're winding down today's stream. We are less than 22 minutes away, ladies and gentlemen, less than 22 minutes away from game number 56, the last game of the Ottawa Senators season. So, Noah, for Toronto, Freddie Anderson starting. They got Austin Matthews. They got Galchenyuk. Is Toronto going to go off tonight on Philip Gustafsson, or is the Ottawa Senators, are they going to play well and get a final win for the fans?
I just love that you mentioned now they have Matthews and they have Galchenyuk. Their second best player on the team now. We talked about this before. I said I think Toronto's going to win 5-4, but I think Freddie Anderson, I think he's still going to be shaky, but I don't think it's going to be injury. I think it's just going to be Freddie Anderson against Ottawa. That's how he always is. But Toronto, they're playoff ready. Ottawa, they're going to have a good game. They're going to, play with they don't have much to lose, right? So they're going to be playing well, but Toronto just, if they're a good playoff team, they're going to finish the season off strong and head into the playoffs in the right direction.
I think Ottawa takes tonight's game 5-3. I expect a Tim Stutzle goal. I expect Zub to contribute with at least 2 to 3 points. And I think Brady Tkachuk scores. Batherson gets some points too. I think Ottawa just goes off offensively. They go ham. They score until the clock runs to 0. I think this team does not want to finish playing games. I think they've bonded so much this season. I think Ottawa is going to play as hard as they possibly can. To get the win tonight. Now, I want to show you guys something. Parker Kelly is making his National Hockey League debut tonight. And here is his first lap in the National Hockey League. I'm going to throw it on the screen. This is courtesy, of course, of the Ottawa Senators. I'm going to throw it on the screen right here. So interestingly enough, it looks like Parker Kelly is going to be wearing number 45 in his National Hockey League debut. What do you think about that?
I'm trying to think of a 45 for the.
But congratulations as you think about that. Congrats to Parker Kelly. Hey, welcome to the National Hockey League. We're fired up for you. Fired up.
I'm honestly, I might look it up even. Like,
all right, you looked it up while I look through a couple things here too. So as Noah looks for that answer, I'm going to show you a cool edit that graphic designer Brian made for us. The go-to graphic design by far. This little cool Tim Stutzle graphic. I'll throw it up on the screen here. Just shout out to Brian. He's been such a great addition to the team this year, and we're looking forward to next year where we can have a full season with him. But look at this. Look at this. Look how cool this is, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at that. That's sick. That is a sick looking graphic right there. So don't know why it keeps on moving, but we'll leave it there.
God, the last player, get ready for this. The last player to wear 45 for the Ottawa Senators was Chris Weidman in his rookie year. He wore 45. But there have been only 3 other players: Dennis Hamill and Alexander Picard, and then Chris Weidman in his rookie year. There are not many 45s.
Well, Parker wasn't Ryan Dzingel. What was his number in his first year? Wasn't it like 48 or something weird, or like 43?
It was 43, I think. Yeah, Ryan Dzingel in 2016 wore number 43.
Okay, good. So Parker Kelly's gonna be okay. Parker Kelly's gonna be just okay. Now, Noah, you said the Sens are gonna lose this one 4-3 to Toronto, right?
5-4.
5-4. Why? Who's scoring for Toronto tonight?
I mean, you got to say Austin Matthews is going to score. I think that their depth guys, I feel like their depth guys always just shine against Ottawa, just to rub it in, like their Spezas and their Makeevs and their not top guys. I think Matthews will get one, obviously. Why not? He's good.
He always scores against Ottawa.
Scores, and then I'll say like Riley maybe, and then your Makeev gets 2 goals. Who knows?
Do you have final thoughts before I wrap up today's stream? Give your final thoughts and let people know about where they can follow you and on Twitch and everything. But what are your final thoughts about the season on Twitter? The community, how it's grown, the product on the ice, just overwhelming. Just summarize the season to you. What's it meant to you this season?
Great season. The young players really took off. That's what we wanted to see. Great starts, by your Norrises and Stutzles and Brandstroms and all of those guys. Great stuff. We were able to have fun this year, but then also we have a good draft pick spot as well, hopefully next year. And who knows, maybe we win the lottery and we're talking a different talk here, but really good season. And in terms of following me, I'm on Twitter at Noah_Luden, and on my Twitter page, it's a link to my Twitch, but it's at Cankles III. I appreciate this was really fun to come on for the pregame show as well.
Always a pleasure to have you on, Noah. You're a OG member of Sens Talk, and you always will be some part or in some capacity a member of this team. Now, before I wrap things up, I want to say a few things. Firstly, we got 31 people here. We've had like 30 to 40 people throughout the whole stream during the time. So shout out to you guys for even stopping by and listening to Noah and I chat it up about the Ottawa Senators. Thank you all for stopping by all season. And what I want to mention about that is the fact that, hey, the Sanders season may be done, but we're not done here. Noah Luden and we're going to create some great content for you guys in the near future. More Best of 7 podcast episodes. Let's Talk episodes. More potentially episodes of Noah Luden, potentially a new series. We'll see about that. But at the end of the day, we're going to have a lot of great content for you guys coming up in this off season. Expansion draft coverage, NHL draft coverage. So if you want your Ottawa Sanders season primarily during the offseason when the Sanders aren't playing and you have cravings for Ottawa Sanders hockey and you miss Sens hockey, just come to Sens Talk. You'll probably see upload within the 24 hours because I seem to upload almost every single day, and I intend to continue to do so during the off season. Now, Noah, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think we all can agree the growth that we've seen this season by the Sens Talk faithful has been incredible. We've increased our subscription base by 4 times. Our followers on Twitter has gone up by like over 1,500. We've just, it's the support. It's been overwhelming. It's been shocking to say the least. So thank you all so very much for watching, listening to us, this talk, just to stop by. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to me as well. And this is only the beginning. Like I said, I'll say it again, lots of things are coming your way. Lots of great content is coming the way. And at the end of the day, I appreciate all of you guys for stopping by as usual today and every other day and listening to me talk about this team that's not going to not going to the playoffs, not winning the Stanley Cup, but the passion this fan base has is second to none. So thank you all for watching and stopping by. And of course, if you ever want to see more of my stuff, especially during this off season, you can find that stuff, of course, all on social media. That's either on YouTube at youtube.com/SensTalk. That's on Twitter at SensTalk_. That's on Instagram at SensTalk, or on Facebook at SensTalk2. During the off season, I will be the #1 destination on YouTube for Ottawa Sanders coverage. So I look forward to seeing you there during the off season as well. Noah, I think it's safe to say we've had a lot of fun today. So I think maybe, we'll leave it off on a fun note. Maybe potentially for a playoff game, we may do some more live stream action. We'll see. But I think we may, in the near future, have some more fun with the live stream function, because every single time we've done it, it's been a huge success. The fans seem to love it. So I think I'll just put it out here. We're definitely going to do some more live coverage or some live content in the near future. But besides that, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate the support. Thank you. Go Sens, go Ottawa. Get that dub. And we'll see you later tonight for the Ottawa Sanders post-game recap right after the game here on youtube.com/SensTalk. Sanders, I hope you win. Thank you all for watching. Go Sens.